During 2020 or maybe 2021, one of the projects I made but didn't shoot any video for was a shop cart. It was not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. It was made from whatever materials I had on hand because we were in a lockdown, so I couldn't go get the correct materials. Its height, for example, was set to whatever the pine offcuts I had on hand were. I couldn't make it any taller. The trays for the top and bottom, just from form ply. Again, whatever size I had dictated the size of the cart. What annoyed me most about the project was not the hodgepodge nature, it was not the imperfections from materials and design, but it was so bloody useful and I didn't get any video of it. I've used this shop cart for years now and it just makes everything easier, from moving materials from one machine to another, from carting around big heavy timbers that I need to joint, to machine maintenance, being able to store all the parts on it, being able to put tools down on my shop cart while I'm not using that tool actively. It just made everything easier. It just so happens that I'm swimming in offcuts again, though this time around it's melamine and the offcuts are considerably larger, so I can actually size the cart how I want. Minor adjustments in the height will mean that I'm not just very slightly stooped over, constantly hurting my back. Yeah, it's something I could have fixed up by adding some spacer blocks or bigger casters, but it's always felt like such a minor fix to a minor problem, but I've managed to keep putting it off to make it future Paul's problem. Unfortunately, I'm future Paul. The cart is basically two drawer boxes held up with some leg. The top drawer's longer sides will be slightly longer to allow a handle. I remember before I bought this edge bander, a week or three of agonising over what seemed like such an excessive tool. What if I only use it for one project? What if the results from it aren't very good? I am an expert at overthinking and overcomplicating my own life, but I'm glad that I made the drunken excessive tool purchase because this has been a really great tool to have. Yeah, the edge cleanup at the router table can be a little bit messy and fiddly dialing in everything, but the result from using 1mm ABS edge banding makes it well worth it. The projects using it come out so much better. Continuing treating it like two drawers, I'm using the same screw construction and again using the super chunky Conformat screws. Why mess with what works? I have a bunch of leftover hardwood cleats that were destined for cabinet uppers. Knocking off the 45 makes them perfectly viable legs, and they were already roughly leg length. From my old board game shelves, I have these slats left over. These were the actual shelf rails. They were still kicking around because they were the perfect stickers for stickering solid wood projects. But with the cart, they can get a new lease on life as shelves for a drying rack. They hover somewhere between 9 and 11 millimeters thick. Off camera, I milled them down to a uniform 8 millimeters thick, and then they'll be need to cut to width of a chonkerno. Now, chonkerno is the technical term. You may not find that in the Fez Tool manual, but the widest setting on the domino creates a chonkerno slot. It's very official and very real. At this stage, only one end needs to be rounded to fit in the chonkerno slot. While I have reasonable confidence in the fit of the slats, they're still not in the wood that deep. So adding a spacer to the standards to create an angle means I can take advantage of gravity or something like gravity. On the first prototype I made, I tried drilling the hole after cutting the angle, but decided that was a bit of a dumb idea and learnt my lesson. Without a doubt, the bandsaw is the one machine with the most personality. Despite my pleading, Slicey McDicey does not give a glue-ready cut. The bracket was cut very slightly oversized, and using a shooting board lets me dial in the exact width and create a glue-ready surface. The pre-existing holes act as a perfect guide hole, but I don't want to go all the way through just yet. Just the tip of the bread point, because the hole needs to be counterbored. Now, these support arms are probably a little bit long, if I'm being honest. I'll probably cut them down to a more uniform length. The longest that I'm ever going to, or the widest that I'm ever going to have on these racks is going to be about 600mm, which is kind of the largest cabinet door that I'd ever do. These two are 300, oh, these are drawer fronts. I don't know what size they are. Let's say that they're about 250 each. So about 500 fits on there, no problem. 600, you only really need 3/4 of it supported. It's not going to fall off. If I'm ever concerned about these support arms being a bit wobbly, not secure enough, I can just drill a hole through, add some sort of locking pin, and that'll be fine. It could be a dowel, it could be whatever, it's something removable. The only downside with this type of cart for a drying rack is that you will need to kind of load it up evenly, otherwise it's going to tip over because, you know, it's not that heavy. But already just for doing glue ups of these cabinet parts has been magical. So I'm just really looking forward to spraying it when the weather's a little bit better and having everything dry on here and not taking up the entire workshop just to dry things. I have these little 3D printed brackets here that help clip it onto the top. They don't provide any locking force, so I'm having to use clamps, which, you know, without the clamps they can slide side to side. It's not the greatest, it's probably fine. I might work on something eventually that adds like a cam or something to actually secure it to the cart without needing a clamp on it. That's all I've got. Thanks for watching.